You live for the madness of opening night. It's only 10 minutes till curtain. The house is filled with an audience hungry for what's certain to be the theatrical experience of the decade. And behind the scenes, you and the rest of the cast and crew are hard at work. Actors are running lines, desperate to remember all the changes the playwright made just minutes ago. Costume designers try not to stick anyone with pins as they make last-minute alterations. In the tech booth, the stage manager frantically reviews tech cues while the lighting and sound designers make sure everything looks and sounds just right. And the director is jogging back and forth, giving everyone notes, reminding them to pick up their cues, don't forget to hold for laughter, and most importantly, break a leg. To lots of people, that sounds like a nightmare. To you, it's energy, excitement, anticipation, and a lifetime of stories of backstage disasters and theatrical triumphs. And one way to be part of it all is with a degree in theater. I'm Erica Brzozowski, and welcome to Fast Guides, a study hall series that explores different college majors. In this episode, we'll take you behind the curtain to see what really goes on when you study theater. Theater, when performers present a live story on stage to an audience, is one of the oldest forms of performing arts. It dates at least back to ancient Greece, where it evolved from religious rituals featuring elaborate costumes, dramatic stories about gods and heroes, and a lot of wine. Since then, theater traditions have popped up all over the world, and from Japanese no theater to the Yoruba theater of Nigeria, pretty much every culture has its own take on this art form, featuring masks, puppets, drumming, and dance. Creating this art takes the communication and teamwork of a whole playbill's worth of artists who have honed really important skills in collaboration, public speaking, problem solving, critical thinking, and changing their outfits really, really fast. And all those skills aren't just here to entertain. Theater makers are also in the business of changing the world. Theater is scientifically proven to strengthen empathy. So when audiences bear witness to the experiences of others played out live on stage, they're also being transformed into kinder, more understanding people. So while modern theater has largely left behind its original religious subject matter, its use of live storytelling to engage audiences in group catharsis lives on. These days, you might find stories about preteens on a competitive dance team, underpaid ushers in the back of a movie theater, or, well, cats. And you'll find all those stories playing out on stages all over, from the Globe in London to New York's theater district to the rehearsal rooms of a college theater department. To get onto those stages, you can start with a major in theater. Theater departments vary widely from school to school, so you'll want to do some research about exactly what kind of school or program you want to be part of. For example, you can decide between a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. For a BA, you might spend less time practicing your lines and more time fulfilling other liberal arts requirements like general science or humanities courses. A BFA, on the other hand, is a more focused program. You'll likely need to audition to get in, and you'll be expected to spend long hours in the rehearsal room, with some semesters spent exclusively on theater requirements. If you're interested in acting, you might also consider which acting philosophy you're most interested in, since different schools tend to focus on different approaches. For example, students studying the Stanislavski method will spend lots of time trying to fully become their character to make their performance as truthful as possible. Meanwhile, students studying the Meisner technique engage in improvisation, experiment with props, and let their in-the-moment instincts take the lead. Whichever program you choose, most of your theater classes will probably be workshops that you'll move through with a cohort of classmates. You'll get hands-on training grappling with text, embodying characters, and covering for your friend when they totally flub their lines. Scene study, where you and your classmates rehearse and perform excerpts from plays, is a huge part of workshop classes. But you might present entire plays as more public performances, too. Theater programs also usually have some sort of voice and movement training component. Like you might study the Alexander technique, which uses relaxation and breathing exercises to help performers strengthen and support their bodies. Depending on the program, you might also be able to concentrate on the more behind-the-scenes production aspects and take more courses in directing, stage lighting, and theater makeup. And on top of all that practical stuff, you'll spend a ton of time reading plays and studying theater history. That way, when you're accepting that Tony Award, you'll remember where you came from. a giant stone amphitheater carved into a hillside next to the Acropolis. You might also find it valuable to add a minor or double major in a field like business, arts administration, communications, or marketing. Think of it like having an understudy for your career. A little business knowledge can go a long way to saving the day when your rent is due. Then, your program will probably culminate in an industry showcase where you and your classmates select, rehearse, and perform scenes and monologues for industry professionals. Or, if you're not a performer, you may have the chance to write, direct, or design a complete play as your final thesis production. With all that time on stage, theater is obviously a great major for people who love showbiz. A lot of people who choose to study theater in college have already spent a fair bit of time in the theater, but that experience isn't required. Really, the only prereq for a theater degree is a passion for plays and a collaborative spirit. But it'll also be helpful to have strong reading and literary analysis skills. Before you can embody Juliet, breathe life into Romeo, or steal the scene as a sassy, wise nurse, you have to know what the text of the play means in the first place. If you're less interested in the spotlight and are more interested in wearing all black, so you blend in with the shadows backstage, majoring in theater is still a good pick that will tap into your love of creativity, teamwork, and hands-on learning. That said, you should still be prepared to get over your stage fright and participate in scene studies along with your destined for Broadway classmates too. Because studying theater is not for the faint of heart. Not only will you have to get over your stage fright, you'll have to get really comfortable with opening up emotionally, both on stage and off. Critique and rejection are huge parts of a theater maker's life, which can put you in vulnerable positions with emotions running high. A theater degree is also a huge time commitment. You can expect to have both your academic and social calendar absolutely dominated by classes, rehearsals, and performances, with little time left over for Netflix binges or tailgate parties. If you find your mental health suffering from the demands of a theater degree, you can reach out to your school's mental health services. Theater professors are also well-versed in the trials their students face and can offer advice and support to students who are struggling. But if you decide all that rehearsal time and rejection just isn't for you, there are other options you can pivot to. Theater can have a lot of crossover with a literature degree, which is usually a little less taxing on your emotions and your schedule. And some schools offer degrees in performance studies, which approaches theater from a more analytical, academic perspective, and won't leave you gnawing your nails waiting to see if you finally landed your dream role. If you do decide to stick with theater, the rejection and uncertainty doesn't necessarily end when you cross the stage with your diploma. Finding work after graduation can be difficult, but there are lots of resources available to help you out. Actors might be able to find audition opportunities through their school alumni network, apprenticeship programs, or on websites like Playbill.com and Actors Access. Playwrights can scour the internet for submission opportunities, applying to contests, open calls, fellowships, and residencies. Designers and stage managers might keep an eye out for calls for stagehands and assistant designers. And for directors, applying to directors groups or fellowships can be a great first step. Or they might apply to work as an assistant to a more established director. For more opportunities, many theater makers decide to move to larger cities like New York, Chicago, or LA, where you may also be able to pivot to jobs in film or TV. But you can also find opportunities in smaller cities and local theaters. Regardless of where you live, networking can play a huge role in finding work as a theater artist. People are often totally open to helping out up-and-coming young artists, so it's important to maintain the contacts you made in school, and you can also reach out to theater professionals via email or social media. Attending performances and events, and sticking around to chit-chat over complimentary box wine after the final bows is another great way to get involved in the theater community. You also don't have to wait until a Broadway producer gives you the golden ticket. A lot of theater graduates DIY it with their friends. You might fundraise for smaller productions or even create your own little theater company to produce new work. But be aware, only a really small percentage of theater artists are actually able to pay the bills making theater. And those bills can really add up. Most jobs in theater are temporary and don't provide benefits like health insurance. Once you've worked enough, you might be able to join a union, like Actors Equity Association, which can provide some benefits, but you'll still face certain work requirements. Actors have to work a minimum of 16 weeks a year to qualify for even 6 months of health insurance. To make ends meet, most folks need to have a survival job. This is usually something flexible, like working as a tutor, a babysitter, a substitute teacher, a temp, or a food service worker. That way, you can take time off for rehearsals when an opportunity comes along. You might also consider a job in theater administration, like working in the literary, development, or artistic department at a more established theater. If you decide to go into technical theater, you might have a better shot at making a living with theater work alone. Working as a stage manager, lighting, sound, costume, or props designer, or board op, you may make around $50,000 to $70,000 a year, which can help you create a savings account while you create jaw-dropping theatrical experiences. Or you might go back to school for a grad degree in theater and pursue jobs in theater education, like working as a professor yourself. But keep in mind that working professionally for a few years first can give you valuable experience and strengthen your grad school applications. And once you decide to apply, you should consider programs that offer lots of funding, like those at Yale or UCSD, so you don't have to take on student debt in a field that may never give you a monetary return on investment. But whether or not you make back the money you paid for your degree, for theater makers, a life of making stories come alive on stage is worth more than any stipend. By studying and creating theater, you'll be fulfilling your creative dreams and joining a millennia-old tradition of artists who came before you. Not only that, but by telling important, dynamic stories, you'll be contributing to the future of theater and helping to build a more creative, empathetic world. If you want to investigate more degrees before you choose a major, check out our other videos in this playlist. To find out how to earn college credit with Study Hall, go to gostudyhall.com or click on the link here or in the description. And if you want to help us out, give this video a like and comment how you chose your degree or what you wish you'd known before you started your degree. Thanks for watching!